So yesterday I mentioned that I was at the KNEA convention in Wichita and that I got to meet with fellow educators. But what I didn't mention is that I got to give an in-person history talk on women who had importance in the labor movement in Kansas. Today I'm going to talk about Mary Elizabeth Lease. So Mary Lease was born in Pennsylvania in the 1850s. By the 1870s, she's graduated, she went to college, and she's going to move to Kansas, specifically this part of Kansas. And that town right there called St. Paul. Only at that time, St. Paul's not St. Paul, it's Osage Mission. She was there to be an educator. She was going to work with the town's children at the mission that was already established there. While there, she meets her husband, who was a town druggist, which is just a fancy word for pharmacist, and they decide about a year after she moves to town, they're going to move and they're going to try farming out in Kingman, Kansas. They took advantage of the Homestead Act, laid down a claim for a couple acres of land, and then suffered a lot of issues. During the 1870s, Kansas is going through a drought and a grasshopper plague, and they were not exempt from that. Mary Lease and her husband lose their farm. Eventually, they end up back in Wichita, where her husband was able to take a job as another pharmacist. And it's there that Mary Lease is going to come into her own. What I didn't mention before was that Mary Lease's father was an Irish revolutionary. In the 1840s, he was protesting the treatment of the people of Ireland by the government of Great Britain. So much so that he took up arms against the government of Great Britain and had to get out of Ireland before he was sentenced to death. He settled as part of that great Irish diaspora and came to Pennsylvania, and he instilled a little bit of that fire in his daughter. She starts becoming active in the Farmers Alliance, which was an attempt to unionize farm workers all throughout the United States, and a lot of it starts right here in Kansas. She is going to become one of the most popular and in-demand speakers for populist and unionist acts. One of her most famous lines, and I love this line, it's one of my favorite lines that she says, is that farmers need to raise a little less corn and a lot more hell. Mary Lease's two biggest issues was making sure that people got fair wages for fair work and were not treated poorly by mega corporations who were taking advantage of them. So anyways, by the 1890s, Mary Elizabeth Lease has a falling out with the Populist Party, but for a 20-year period, she was one of the biggest advocates for farm workers, for workers' rights, and for women's rights and women's suffrage rights in the state of Kansas. So there you go. Cool woman that I got to talk about in front of a whole bunch of teachers yesterday. I get to do cool stuff sometimes. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.